Welcome. This is Urban Politics, and I am Phys Ed Music. Thank you for joining me on this crisp Sunday afternoon. Let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a whole lot of news to go over today. Let's open it up talking about our president, Mr. Joseph R. Biden. He signed an executive order expanding voter rights. That's major. H.R. 1, expanding early and mail-in voting. Restoring voting rights for former felons, and easing voter registration for all eligible American voters. That's huge right there. That's just good stuff. So, there it is. The Democrats trying to do something to actually help people vote. Unlike another party who wants to stop people from voting, they're trying to help expand the franchise. Biden spoke about it at the Martin and Coretta King Unity Breakfast, a breakfast commemorating Bloody Sunday. For those who don't know what Bloody Sunday is when they marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, and they were getting beat up by the cops and stuff because they were just trying to march across the bridge to cast their votes. That's a huge moment in civil rights. So, this breakfast commemorates that. He said every person eligible to vote should be able to do so and have that vote counted. He said, if you have the best ideas, you have nothing to hide. I want to stop right there because that's something interesting. Think about what he just said right there. If you have the best ideas, you have nothing to hide. I remember years ago, I think I was watching Rachel Maddow, and she had said something about Mitt Romney. And some of the things that he was doing were just so, just such lies, just such hypocrisy. Some of the things he was saying, actually. And she was saying, this guy's outright lying, that's a problem. She said, that's not right. That's not cool. That's not how we do this thing. All right? And she said, the fact that you would outright lie like that or try to use these little backdoor methods to win shows that you cannot win the argument based on your merits. And that's what it is right here. The GOP has kind of, they hung that up. They threw that out the window. It was interesting because when McCain ran against Obama, right, and he lost, then they said, we have to reshape the GOP. We have to find a way to expand this tent. We have to get more inclusive, right? So then Obama had his terms, his 2 terms, and they were good. And then another guy came out the woodwork. He whose name shall not be mentioned. Donald Trump, that dude. He came out the woodwork and he won big. And he actually turned on a group of people who, if you ask me, have no business being involved. I can't say that. They're American citizens. Of course they should be involved in voting. Are they educated voters? No, sir, no, ma'am. But they are people and they are governed by the people who hold office, ergo their vote matters, they're citizens, and they should be voting, I guess. Now they are voting. He activated this sect of people who don't really know anything or read anything or learn anything or research anything, but he activated them and they're activated now and they won. And the GOP was like, hey, he done got us some fans. We've been struggling with that because we had to brawl in this tent, which means we was going to have to drop the racism. And a lot of them really just didn't want to drop the racism. I'm just going to keep it real. Come on, man. A lot of the GOP members, they didn't want to lose that racist piece. That's been a big piece of their party. Catering to big business, always having that undercurrent of racism, undercurrent of misogyny. They don't like women. They don't like people of color, none of that stuff. So they didn't want to lose a lot of that. And when Trump came out the woodwork, they didn't have to anymore. Because here goes a bunch of people who are right there with us as far as the racism goes. Some of these other concepts of conservatism, they don't know anything about that. But they're turned on by the racism. They're turned on by the nationalism. Let's use that. And they did that. And that's what it is. They've been hiding behind that. And with that, they're able to keep their control and to win an election or two. Because you see, they got somebody all the way to the executive with that. Because there's still that vein in America. There are still those people who want to hold on to those old ideas. And Trump tapped into that. So there's that. He also urged Congress to restore parts of the Voting Rights Act. Now, if you don't know about that, the Voting Rights Act, I felt bad about that because they basically gutted that. They got rid of that. And the Voting Rights Act in a nutshell, what it was is just something that said when these states, particularly southern states, want to do little hokey things to mess with their vote, they got to run it by the federal government first. Now, a lot of people would say, now there was a point even, I remember Al Sharpton talking to Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe about this. And Morning Joe, or Joe Scarborough, he took issue because he said, Joe, are you, not Joe, he said, Al, are you trying to tell me we still need this? Al, are you trying to tell me that same vein of racism that existed in the 40s and 50s and 60s is still in the South and we need these laws? Al Sharpton was like, yes. Now, this was before the Trump days. So Joe Scarborough, who's no longer a Republican right now because of some of this stuff I'm talking about from the Republican Party, at that time, he didn't like that. He didn't like having to be hit with that reality. But he ended up being hit with it. But I have respect for Joe Scarborough because when he was hit with it, you know what he did? He quit the party. When he actually got that racism put in his face and said, hold up. Here I am all these years thinking some of these people have a problem with policy. No, they have a problem with people of color. They're racist. He got out of that because that's not him. I respect that man. I respect him. But at these times, he took issue with that Voting Rights Act, with Al Sharpton having a problem with that Voting Rights Act being being cut like that, or being gutted like it was. But right now, I mean, we needed it then, we need it now. We see we need it now. We see we needed it then. So there it is. You know, unfortunately, in an ideal world, states would do the right thing. They would count every vote. One man, one woman, one vote in an ideal world. This is not an ideal world. This is a world full of people with different ideologies. And a lot of times that ideology would have people in the state saying that, the popular vote was for such and such, but us group of people right here, we don't want such and such. We're something else and we want someone else because we picked it. Who cares what the overwhelming majority of people in the state want? It should be about what this cabal of a few people over here want. Garbage. But that is what it is. So he said it's needed to protect the vote and strengthen the democracy. I agree. That's exactly what it is. It's needed to protect the vote and strengthen the democracy. Like all that stuff I was just talking about, that stuff would stop. You know, the Voting Rights Act would stop what we saw even with this last election. You know, a few people in a few states wanting to override the will of the majority in that state. This would stop that. So the legislation he signed will leverage federal resources to expand opportunities in education about voting and electoral process. We need that. You know what dude talking about right here? Civics. We don't have it anymore. People don't understand anything. People don't know anything about government. All people, I remember back in the day, I used to work for a guy, I can't remember his name, but he had helped the mayor of Marion, Ohio get elected at that time. And so this guy was heavy in politics, and that's basically what he did. He was a political operative, the way I would describe this guy. I've talked about him on the show before. But what he would have me and some other people do is call around, and we would get people's thoughts on voting, who you're going to vote for, which way you lean, and stuff like that. We do these survey calls stuff. And he used to always call it the horse race. He said, Eddie, people are only interested in the horse race, and that's that presidential election. But all politics is local. The things that really affect your life and your well-being are local politics, but that's boring to people. Nobody care about local politics. People only care about the horse race. And he was right. That's the only thing that people are looking at. They're always looking at that horse race. So this right here, this would educate people to what I just told you, that the game's at home. The game is local politics. Now, there's a lot of people, especially, who sit on the right, who don't necessarily want everybody to know how voting works. They don't necessarily want people to understand that if you have an issue, you either have money or you have people. You'll either have a whole bunch of money that you can put into getting this issue, some eyes and ears on it and prominence on it, and then your issue gets voted on. Or you have a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of signatures. Maybe you got 500,000 people who can sign this piece of paper saying they want this thing. So there's your power. They don't want people knowing it like that, because if you know that, then you're in the game, right? If you know how to get in the game and how to play the game, you could mess around and win the game, right? Your competition. And some people don't want that competition. So that's what's going on with that. But I like the fact that there's money in there to help people get educated, because that's what needs to happen around here. And a lot of that's happening these days. Why? You got shows like this. You got other shows that are getting people into politics, getting people into voting. You have, unfortunately, the thing that happened with Mr. Floyd, and we'll talk about some of that legislation or some things that are going on around that. But events like that have gotten people involved in politics, gotten people interested. That's what we need, but there are powers that be that are scared of that. They don't want that. They don't want the common man or woman interested in this political process. The stimulus that just finally got passed by Democrats, all Democrats, not one Republican signed on for the stimulus. So while they're out here trying to take credit for people getting money, know that. Please know that if you don't know anything else. Not a one of them cared about you. Not a one of them cared about your kids having any money. Not a one of them cared about, man, as soon as that came out my mouth, I thought about some other stuff. But don't listen. Not a one of them cared. Real talk. Not a one of them cared about the American people being able to get back on their feet or being able to survive a little bit under this pandemic. Because if you ask me, $1,400 is too little too late, but we'll take what we can get. But when you got places like Canada giving its citizens $8,000 a month and have been doing this since the pandemic started, what is America giving us $1,400 right now? And yeah, they gave us what, $1,400, $1,200 before. Now, all of that is too little too late. The American government can definitely do better than that. But anyway, moving on. The stimulus will put $1,400 checks in the hands of millions of Americans. It will lift 13 million people out of poverty. It will cut child poverty nearly in half. Now that's major right there. So kudos to the Democratic Party. Please remember which party did that for you. It was the Democrats. And I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I am an independent. I vote the person and not the party. But right now, this person, Joe Biden, he just signed some legislation to put some money in the pockets of Americans, and they need it. I have friends who haven't worked since October. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? They need that money. That's not enough, but they at least need that. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about that interview that no one can stop talking about. The Oprah Winfrey interview with Meghan Markle. Or Markle? Yeah. Anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about. It was a shame because it's okay. I've talked about this on this show, not in depth or anything, because I am not I'm not a person who watches the royal family. I really don't care about that at all. I mean, it is what it is. Princess Diana, she was an amazing lady. I've seen documentaries on her and stuff. I was impressed with a lot of her ways and actions and how she raised her children. But besides that, I don't get too much into them. But of course, everybody was abuzz about this. It all started though when she'd been, married a guy, married into that royal family. They were calling her difficult. And that, number one, they've always hurled that at black women. Oh, she's difficult. That sister difficult. It's hard to work with her. She's disagreeable. Hard to get along with her. So there you go. She's difficult. They want to play her like that. Play her like she's somehow holding Harry hostage or something. That he's a grown man. If he ain't want to be with her, do whatever he could, or wanted to go against her will, he could say that. He doesn't, because he agrees with her. That's his wife and he loves her. Trump saying he wanted to wish Harry lots of luck. Then gonna say he's gonna need it. Really? Man, that guy is a misogynist, chauvinist piece of garbage. So, but that was just another way of trying to take a jab at a sister. Oh, she's a black woman. She's difficult. That's going to be a hard time for him. I want to wish him a lot of luck with that one. He's going to need it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyway, so there was that idiot who had something to say about it, Trump. Then you had the tabloids over there. And some of these, I'm taking this right from what I heard was over there. Talking about how she's straight out of Compton. Really? Really? Because she's black? That's how y'all want to lead it off? Straight out of Compton. That's racist. Then they talking about from cotton picking to the royal palace. Really? Really? From cotton picking to the royal palace. If you cannot see the racism in that, well, then you see it, but you just don't want to admit it. But come on, man, that's ridiculous. Seriously? From cotton picking to the royal palace? But this is how England gets down. This is how they get down over there. They're up front with their racism. Here in America, they're, at least people try to shade a little bit. Nah. Over there, they letting it all hang out on a racist tip, and they don't care. So there's that. Here he said, after talking to his father, he said the second time he stopped taking his calls, and said there was talk about whether Archie's skin would be dark. Why did that surprise people? That ain't surprised me at all. Here's what's interesting though. Think about it. Megan, that young lady is not dark-skinned at all. For all intents and purposes, she's pretty light-skinned. What if she was as dark as me? Think about that. Think about that. Or darker. Oh my Lord, the queen, she probably would have had a heart attack or something. Clutch the pearls, you know? She wouldn't have been able to handle it. So the fact that she's not even that dark, that they had a conversation about whether her skin's son would be dark. But what is that about? I think we all know what that's about. Black people in the monarchy. What? Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Hold up. Let me keep going. I'll get to that in a minute here when I wrap it all up at the end for you and put a bow on it. Piers Morgan walks off of his show because he was mad and he was called on his Meghan bashing. And that's what it is too, some Meghan bashing. I guess he had an interview with her and she cut him off, so he says. So he's been mad about that and he been on one. And then there was a brother on the show said, look, man, I don't know why you've had the need to have her name in your mouth. She ain't had your name in her mouth. And why you got to be going in on her and da-da-da-da-da. Pierce got mad, ripped off his mic, walked off the stage. He's a baby and a schmuck. Of course he walked off the stage in disgust. He should. And he's done. Then you got people on the right talking about, oh, cancel culture. Now Pierce is being canceled. No, he ain't. He canceled himself. He walked off of his show in disgust. He should have. He's pathetic. Okay? He's no type of man. You know, he's mad and Meghan, why don't you just be honest about what you're mad about? You're mad because she's black. You're mad because she's a person of color who had the audacity to let you know that she was being treated racistly by your queen. She had the audacity to speak up for herself. Not only is she a person of color and she's a woman, how dare she think enough of herself as a person to say something when she's being wronged. Man, this guy's pathetic. He's a loser. I'm glad he's going. Good riddance to bad rubbish is what I always say when especially when they cancel themselves like this idiot did. Anyway, moving on. They talked about how they was going to deny her son security, or she talked about how they were denying her son security and denying him the title of prince. Yes. Why? The queen is salty because now it's all coming full circle. Everything's coming back around, right? Right? That is the law of science. When you put something out, right, it comes back to you. So now everything just goes in circles. Things repeat themselves, right? So now it's going in a circle. England, what did they used to say? That the sun never set on the British Empire. Think about that. Anywhere on the planet, the sun's up, right? Because we live on a ball, right? And a little science for those who don't know. We live on a ball. And you know what I'm saying? And we rotate around the sun. And while the earth is spinning, so at any time of day, any time of night, it's lit somewhere. Somewhere the sun's up. And they said that the sun never set on the British Empire. So that was them letting people know that we got so much stuff. We have colonized so many populations. We've taken over so much land that there's nowhere that you can be where the sun isn't up that we don't own some of that land, that we haven't taken it from some of those people and taken it in the name of the queen. And now they salty because you went around the world colonizing brown people and now a brown person has infiltrated your ranks. Now there's some brown blood and there's nothing they can do to diminish that. Nothing they can do. They can deny him security. She can deny him the title. She cannot deny his blood. And that's the most coveted thing to them, isn't it? That's the reason why they almost have killed themselves off for all that nasty inbreeding. You know, humping each other to keep all the blood royal, right? They want to keep all that royal blood. But in doing that, that's nasty. That's going against science. They've done nothing but killed themselves off. I remember reading about that years ago, how they said inbreeding, they had to stop doing that because that just wasn't working out for them. And we already know how that goes, you know? So there you go. So now they have a brown person who has royal blood and she's salty about that. She can't handle it. But it is what it is. And they can't deny that. So that's things coming full circle. That is what it is. But I thought that was interesting. If you haven't seen that interview, check it out. But we all knew that. Well, we all knew that royal family was racist. We all knew this whole thing was about racism. They're mad because they stepped off, let go of that title. What is it? The Duchess of Essex. Let go of that. She don't need it. She making money hand over foot without it. They mad about that. They were mad that famous people have come out to support them. They're mad that these are different times. There's a time when it would have came out that the royal family was being racist to her and it wouldn't have been no big deal. And people would have supported the royal family and not her. Now the only people who are supporting the royal family are people who live over there and other races. So they're salty about that. Times are changing. The times they are changing. They're changing. So they got to get hip to that. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Generation C or Generation COVID. Sad to even have to say that. Kids born between 2016 and 2030s, even after the pandemic is over, they will still be reeling from the effects of COVID. So that's why it goes all the way from 2016 to 2030. Even though it looks like we're in the midst of maybe coming out of this thing, soon, like maybe this year, hopefully maybe next year. We're still going to be living with the residual effects from COVID. They will be living with it. They say kids 7 to 9 are particularly vulnerable. Kids going through major developmental milestones. College kids missing out on the full college experience. Kids getting overstimulated at the sight of full faces without a mask on them. How will these kids handle socializing? Some parents fear kids will be overwhelmed once they get back into the world. I hear that. Some of us adults probably wondering about that. You've been locked up in the house. You're working from home or doing whatever. What happens when you can get out again? What happens when we can get out again and don't need a mask anymore? People are going to be looking different. How are people going to deal with that? It's something to think about. I thought about this college kid piece a couple of months ago because I remember being in college, and a piece of the college experience was hanging out, going to parties, going to keg parties, being in different groups, just having a good time with all the social aspects of college. All those kids, they're missing that right now. They're not getting that, And college just isn't the same over Zoom. I don't care. It just isn't. You're not getting that full college experience. Some of those kids have gotten money back from these universities. Some of them have not, I've heard. How you still paying the full price to go to a college? You're not getting that college experience. But that isn't a fault of the college, but it is what it is. I couldn't see paying $50,000 to go to this college and I'm only getting half the experience. I need to be paying $20,000, $25,000. So there's that. But it's a shame that that's what's going on right now. So this is going to be quite the adjustment. When people finally are coming back to what we know as normal, what will that look like? I think Dr. Fauci and them were saying that we'll probably need to go ahead and keep social distancing, probably need to go ahead and still get rid of handshakes and not do that type of stuff anymore. But we'll see, right now we're in the new normal, but what will the new normal look like when we're quote unquote past the virus or past things being as bad as they are now? I don't know. We'll see, but it's definitely going to have an effect on the kids. This Generation C, that's real. Because they said, we've already lost the equivalent of 2 World War IIs or something like that, 2 or 3 Vietnams. We've lost 500,000 Americans plus by this time. That's an old statistic. 500,000. We had reached that goal probably a couple weeks ago. I perish to think what it is right now. But the kids are going to remember this. They're going to talk about these times like it was wartime because it was a war. We're fighting a silent enemy. It doesn't have a gun, doesn't carry a gun. But it's sure enough, it's killing people by the truckloads, isn't it? And the kids they'll have a story to tell about how they spent time in the house and couldn't come out and all of that stuff. The Dems have signed the PRO Act, which will strengthen unions in America. That's a good thing. Democratic Tim Ryan told the GOP to stop worrying about Dr. Seuss and get to work helping the American people. And then he was screaming on the House floor. He's like, God forbid we do something to help the American people, to help the American worker. I agree with that. And that's real right there. How is it that no Republicans could be for the PRO Act? It helps American workers. They claim to be the party of American workers. People really just don't pay attention. I'm like, come on, we got a GOP. A lot of these guys went to Ivy League universities. They're made of money, but they claim to be the party of the working class man and woman. Then when stuff like this comes up that helps the working class man or woman, they're nowhere to be found voting yay on the legislation. Garbage. People need to pay attention. People need to pay attention. While these guys keep telling you that they're in the corner of the working man, they're doing everything working against the working man. When is the working man going to wake up and stop voting for these schmucks? That's all I'm asking. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about the Minneapolis City Council approving $27 million settlement for George Floyd's family. Good. They voted 13-0 in favor of it. $500,000 of it will go to the George Floyd Memorial Site, which is at 13th in Chicago. This right here is the largest pre-trial civil rights wrongful death settlement in history, sending a message that Black lives matter a lot. Yes, indeed. That's the message that sends. Not only do Black lives matter, they matter a whole bunch. Think about that. We all saw what happened to Mr. Floyd. It was sad. It was a dark day in this country. It was a dark day for the world. But before they've even litigated this case or looked at it or talked about the details or any of that, family has gotten $27 million. That is a little bit of justice. That's a little bit of justice. That is a step in the right direction. Now, let's take this thing to trial. Let's get this guy, Derek, whatever his last name is. Y'all know his last name. Let's get that dude prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Let's make sure that some of the things that this George Floyd policing act that they passed, let's make sure that keeps cops from doing some more of this stupid stuff in the future. And that's good. And that's how we change things around here. But I like to see that. $27 million. Hey, that was the city of Minneapolis breaking bread with the Floyd family. And I like the fact that it went 13-0 in favor. There wasn't one person who sat there and saw that and seen what happened to that brother and said, nah, his family don't deserve $27 million. They deserve a lot more than that. But let's be thankful that they're just going to settle for that because the city probably ain't got much more than that to give. You know, so that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? So that right there is major, man. I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that, you know what I'm saying, Minneapolis is doing the right thing by that family. Like I said, no amount of money brings the brother back. No amount of money stops, you know, what has already taken place. But at least you can give that to say, hey, Black lives matter. Not only do they matter a whole bunch. They matter so much that we don't need a trial. We saw he was wrong like the rest of America, like the rest of the world saw he was wrong. So we're going to do what we can monetarily to try and say, sorry, we screwed that up. Here's this. So that's what's up. So I like that. Last thing I'm going to do, of course, is talk about, now usually I talk about my IPA brew of the week, but no. This is not an IPA. This right here is just a classic beer, Guinness. I know you know about this beer. First of all, everybody is hip to Guinness. Now, back in the days, when I was a novice as far as beer drinking goes, I didn't like Guinness because Guinness, and this is extra stout, Guinness is a dark beer, and it's really not for the person who's not a seasoned beer drinker. You got to get into beer to dig Guinness, but it's delicious. And once I finally really did get into beer and I refined my palate, this became one of my favorite beers right here. It is. Now, I love IPAs. I'm an IPA guy. I probably never met an IPA I didn't like. There's a handful I don't dig, but most IPAs I really, really like. But this right here is a beer that I drink if I'm not drinking an IPA. There's another one. I'm not even going to talk about it now. I'm going to bring it on the show and talk because I really want y'all to get a look at that beer. That's the best beer I've ever had in my life. Talk about that later. But anyway, this right here, Guinness, it goes hard. It's a dark beer. It's a smooth beer. It's kind of got a bitter taste, but I love that. Check this out. This is what they say. They're talking about an intense charcoal feel. Oh, yeah, hold on. An intense character filled and bold Guinness Extra Stout is the pure expression of our brewing legacy. Bittersweet with subtle hints of hops, dark fruits, and caramel. The stout is a testament to great brewing. I would agree, and delicious, ladies and gentlemen. It goes hard. Guinness, that's good beer. That's good beer for beer lovers. So if you got some money in your pocket, run on down to the store and you'll spend about $2.50 on that good Guinness beer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with your boy on this Sunday. This is Urban Politics. I am Fizzhead Music. Once again, we'll do it again next week, bringing more news to you. Please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe if you dig what you've heard. Tell a friend and tell them to like and subscribe, and we'll keep this thing moving. Always, if you want to push back, always hit me up at PhizEdMusic. That is PhizEdMusic at Gmail. And as always, see you around like a donut.